So we finally have the full spoilers for chapter 16 of Boruto to Vortex, and it pretty much shows the backstory behind Boruto's Flying Thunder God, which isn't really Flying Thunder God, so that part is very interesting. And we also have Sumire clashing with Sarada over Boruto because apparently he's in the top 1%, so that part was very funny. And we also have a major death in the manga, the first major death, so yeah, we'll get to that part. So yeah, let's get into it. Now, the person on the cover for this month is Ada, and the title for the chapter is Singularity of Fate, apparently. So we just wait and see when the official comes out. So the first point says that we see Ada watching Kashin Koji teaching FTG to Boruto via Senringan looking into the past. And ignore the misspelling of Boruto's name, they always do this for some reason. But yeah, we also have the translation for the conversation itself, and we have Kashin Koji explaining what space-time ninjutsu is. It pretty much instantly transfers any object regardless of self to any location. Like the ability to fly, it's one of the basic abilities possessed by the Otsutsuki. He goes on to tell Boruto that you have manifested this power many times in the past, all of which were mere outbursts occurring under limited circumstances that could not be reproduced. I must say that it's something that is not yet under your control. He then goes on to say that, but after 6 years, so 6 years in the future, you succeeded in controlling this ability. He then goes on to say that by assigning your chakra to ninja tools and by sensing this, you can instantly go to any location. It has been sublimated into a ninjutsu that allows free and unrestrained movements. Now this part is very interesting because I think he's implying that space-time ninjutsu by itself is a shinjutsu, which is referring to when they open the space-time portal. But Boruto is able to sublimate it, which means to modify it into a ninjutsu version of that ability, which is FTG. He then goes on to tell Boruto that his grandfather Minato Namikaze specialized in the same jutsu that had a similar name. But in fact, this part is very interesting, it's actually a different technique. You don't know the real Flying Thunder God jutsu. He then goes on to say that Boruto, 6 years into the future, while searching for the control method of space-time ninjutsu in the ninja world, somehow in his own way achieved nearly the same result, thus creating a variant of the Flying Thunder God jutsu. He then gets into the more technical aspect of the ability, saying that the most suitable medium for the granting of chakra is a ninja tool. After much trial and error, this will be the most optimal solution you arrive at. Boruto then asked him if his sword will work as well, and he then said that kunai or shuriken, any kind of ninja tool, will serve as a medium for teleportation. If it is within visible range, teleportation will become more accurate and easier. For example, the shuriken that has been granted as a medium, let's assume that it was located far to the north and south at the same time. So basically 2 shurikens. You can sense the chakra of the medium you want to meet and teleport to. However, in this case, whether north or south, I can't tell which shuriken you will teleport to. So if the medium is always only one, there's no problem. But that means you can't fully utilize the convenient nature of this technique. So pretty much a case that Boruto can't differentiate between 2 shurikens because it's kinda the same item. So that's why Boruto had the idea to use different shapes, so you can visualize it and distinguish between, let's say, a star and a triangle. He then goes on to tell Boruto that the future you will develop theories and knowledge over the next many years. In the end, knowledge is just trivial knowledge. Until you can say that you have truly mastered Flying Thunder God, don't forget that effort is essential. So pretty much Boruto hasn't mastered Flying Thunder God, which we already knew before because he said this in chapter 3. And also, this is also stated in the official databook. So this is more so to explain the technical aspect of how it actually functions. Now he also tells Boruto that you can see the good future and the bad future. It would be better if you told everyone and asked for their cooperation. The more people know, the future will change dramatically. The result is that the future is complicated. Now this part is a bit sus because there's this other translation that says it is better not to let everyone know about the future because the more one knows, the more they deviate from the rails of destiny. The more they deviate, the closer they become to the singularity, a heretical entity that destabilizes the future. As the singularities of fate, it is our duty to guide them and help them navigate the path to a better future. Now this part is, I think, makes more sense than the other one because he's telling him not to tell everyone the future, and that's what he's doing, so I think this more lines up with the official translation when it comes out. But what I'm curious about is that if this entity that destabilizes the future is actually a real entity and it's not just some theoretical, mumbo jumbo. And also, why is it okay for Kashin Koji and Boruto to become closer to this singularity and no one else is allowed to? And what I do find interesting is that in chapter 13 specifically, Boruto questioned Kashin Koji about whether it's okay for them to take things from the future, and Kashin Koji replied saying that it's totally fine, it's just a normal function of prescience, and there will be no timeline paradox. So this kind of seems directly in contradiction to what he said in chapter 13, but it could be the case that it's not, and the mere fact that he's saying this at this point means that it's not. But again, you know, maybe we'll get into the more technical aspect of why that's the case, but I think they're implying that people knowing about the future messes with the future, which is a basic concept of time travel in any fictional universe. So the mere fact that he said it wasn't gonna cause a timeline paradox, but this is saying that it will destabilize the future, is very, very interesting. So we'll see how that one plays out. But yeah, it also mentions that Kashinkochi from the past knew that Ada was going to watch their conversation with the Senringan, which is what she did in this chapter. So they are prepared for anything that follows, although I doubt anything will, because Boruto is working with Kawaki at this point in time. Now we also had a short convo between Ada and Shikamaru as well, and she goes on to say that for the time being, Kawaki has also temporarily agreed to cooperate with Boruto. At the very least, if you want to do something about those Shinjus, it's better not to interfere with them. He then says, Ada, Boruto has a mysterious ally who's helping him. Did you see that guy? He then goes on to say, previously, he was the one who called out to me by using a toad. I have seen that toad before. He's Kashinkochi. That's how it is, right? And we also have some later panels that haven't been translated as yet, but it shows the frog on Ada's back speaking to Shikamaru. So it seems that the plot is moving along, and Kashinkochi is incorporating Shikamaru into whatever plan they have. But at the same time, the lords are conspiring behind Shikamaru's back. They want this dude gone. Trust me. I don't know what's gonna happen. Maybe Shikamaru dies, maybe he gets locked up, or just removed from his position, because Boruto has gotten away twice at this point in time and he's still refusing to become the official Hokage. So I don't know what's gonna happen to bro, but it's looking scary, so we'll see. Now this is where we get into the funny part, and trust me, I have no beef with any shippers in the Boruto fandom. I love you guys, okay? Don't harm me, okay? It's fine. But we have a conversation between Sarada and Sumire, which I don't know, it's just so out of place, where I'm like, this is very interesting. But yeah, they're basically talking to Ada, and Sarada goes on to say, fighting opponents like that, it's too reckless for him to do it alone. And Sumire jumps in saying that it's because we were there with him that something like that happened, right? Which means that she's kind of implying that the reason why Boruto got damaged is because he was trying to protect them because they were there. Which, I mean, maybe, but that's not really what happened, because he went to them because they were getting attacked, so it's not like they tried to interfere with him. So it's kind of the other way around, but I get what she's saying in a sense. But in any case, that would be Kawaki's fault because he's the one who distracted Boruto in the first place. But yeah, we move on with the conversation, and Sarada says that's, and she's kind of confused about what she's saying. And Sumire replied saying, why don't you try thinking just a little, which is that's just crazy. She's calling Sarada an Ered, which is, it's just hilarious. I don't know, it's just so random, and I'm like, bro, that's crazy. But she goes on to say, you know, why don't you try thinking just a little about how Boruto couldn't feel. So it's not just saying she's stupid, she's just saying she should think about Boruto, okay? I'm just joking around. But yeah, she goes on to say, do you think I'm doing this by choice? Even if there's things he wants to talk about, he can't. Have you ever tried to think about how painful this must be? And Sarada replied saying, class press. And Sumire goes on to say that it's not just about Boruto, my feelings as well. You know, don't you? I like Boruto. Even though you knew, you flew straight into his arms, which goes back to, I think, chapter 6 when Sarada ran to Boruto and hugged him. So it seems like Sumire was a bit jealous in that moment, which is kind of funny since, you know, the Sumire fandom and the Sarada fandom were arguing that this was the case or wasn't the case, but apparently it was. So yeah, there is some conflict going on there. And we know that Sumire liked Boruto from part 1. She literally says this to Boruto, which it kind of makes sense, her feelings, because she outright said that she has a problem with other women liking Boruto to Sarada, when Sarada said that she doesn't have a problem. And it's kind of exemplified in this case where Sarada doesn't really have a problem with Sumire liking Boruto, but Sumire really has a problem with Sarada hugging Boruto. So yeah, it's not anything different. The character isn't changing, but I really do think that her reaction to this is a bit more intense than it was in part 1. But you know, she's a teenager now, so it makes sense. But yeah, Ada is enjoying this for some reason. She says, this is so awkward, you know, the air is so suffocating. I feel like I can't even lift a finger, but this is seriously fun. Go at it more. And Sumire goes on to say, sorry, I don't know why I started to talk about this. This isn't the time to be having this conversation. And she pretty much leaves. Now Sarada doesn't say much, you know, but Sumire leaves and Sarada tries to call out to her saying class prez, and Sumire asks her how long is she gonna call her that, which is class prez. And I do think this is more so in regards to Boruto calling her class prez, she doesn't like it anymore because it does seem a bit distant. He doesn't call her by her real name, which means he doesn't consider Sumire as close as someone like Sarada. And it's kind of like when two-person or two strangers meet and, you know, they kind of refer to each other as Mr. and Mrs. or use the last names instead of the first names, which indicates that they aren't as familiar. So Sumire wants that to go away with Boruto, but she doesn't know how to do it, and she's kind of taking it out on Sarada. So I think that's pretty much the dynamic that's going on, but we'll see how that plays out. It's very interesting. I know this is going to cause some fun on Twitter. I won't engage, but I will watch. You know, it's kind of funny. So we'll see. We'll see. Now we then get confirmation that the three-man team that went to the Sand Village is Konohamaru, Mitsuki, and Sarada. So I was right about Mitsuki being there because it does make sense. It's the Shinki Shinju. They're gonna have their rematch. It also shows the Shinki Shinju and Matsuri in the Sand Village. Now I do find it weird that they didn't send Team 10 because there's kind of a dynamic there between the Matsuri, Shinju, and Team 10 as well. But maybe the conflict doesn't get resolved in this arc, so maybe they get to fight her later on as well. But what's even more interesting is that they sent Sarada, knowing that Sarada is a target of a Shinju, and it kind of doesn't make sense to me, but it does make sense at the same time because you think that since she's a target of a Shinju, they wouldn't send her outside the protection of the village and the strongest ninjas, and they wouldn't send her somewhere else they're trying to protect from a Shinju, because her being there would lure another Shinju to that location as well. So it's a bit strange when you look at it that way. But there's also the fact that they saw Hidari get destroyed by Boruto, so at this point in time Hidari doesn't exist to them, so they don't know that he's back. But it's still kind of weird because even if Hidari is gone, they have no idea if the other Shinjus would just take his place. You know, they have no idea. So the sender there is a bit strange as well. And then there's also the case that they have Ada. They can use the Senragon to check what's going on with Shinjus, and they should know how many Shinjus there are currently before sending them to another village. So I think those kind of things make this decision very questionable. But we'll see how that plays out. It's very interesting. We're going to see Sarada maybe get the Mangekyo, so yeah, that would be pretty cool. But I did mention that there's a major death, a major death in these spoilers, and I want you guys to pay your respects in the comments. You know, put a lot of F's to our great friend Filbert. Filbert the Frog is gone. You know, it's tragic, you know, but yeah, it's just one of those things. The good thing is that you have many other frogs that also go by the name of Filbert. So look, it's fine, it's okay, we'll be okay. We also have some new translations from the conversation between Ada and Shikamaru. So Ada goes on to say that you're the one who helped him escape, right? By using Mitsuki, you let Boruto get away. Shikamaru then says, what are you talking about? And Ada replied saying, don't play dumb. Don't worry, I'm not going to snitch. It would be inconvenient for me too. Then we get a panel of Boruto from chapter 14 when he said that there are things I don't plan to tell you, but I haven't lied. Ada then goes on to say that more than anything, I don't want to make things harder for Boruto. We then skip to page 29, which had Koji speaking to Shikamaru through one of his toads, as I mentioned before. He then says, you are sharp, Nara Shikamaru. It's just as you said, listen carefully, I'll give you key points but no questions. And Shikamaru then goes on to ask a question. What? And then Koji goes on to say Saratobi Konohamaru, Uchiha Sarada, and Mitsuki send them to the land of wind. So yeah, the reason why I wanted to add this to the video because I mentioned before that it's kind of tricky that they sent them, given the fact that Konohamaru and Sarada are both targets of the Shinju. So it seems that the reason why he sent them is because Koji told him to. And it goes back to what Koji said about the best possible future. Like, even though it kind of doesn't make sense logically to send the targets to another village, maybe this does lead to the best possible outcome. Now what I want to see is that if Boruto finds out about this and then questions Koji about why he would send Sarada into danger, or if Boruto is also included in this plan as well. So I guess we'll kind of see like the breakdown between Koji and Boruto, because I do believe that there's going to be one. This goes back to Boruto saying that he's going to protect Kawaki, he's not going to kill him. We had that panel of Koji looking at Boruto very mysteriously, like it doesn't agree with Boruto's conclusion. And then it goes back to Boruto telling Kawaki that this appears to be the only possible outcome in chapter 1, which means that it is possible that Koji saw this future and didn't tell Boruto about it. And it could also be the case that he tried to actively get to this future because it was the best possible outcome regardless of Kawaki's fate. So I think everything about this is very, very interesting. With that said, that's it for the spoiler, guys. We're gonna have the full chapter leaks ready by later today, but of course I'm not one to put every single thing in the spoiler video, so you'll have to wait until the chapter review comes out in a few days. Also, no crying about the jokes I made in the video because I do not care, so don't waste your time, okay? With that said, drop a like if you like the video and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.